we can start this meeting. It's 3 o'clock. I guess we're officially posted for 3. All present. It's a subcommittee in its entirety, the Chief Sullivan and Assistant Chief Purcell. Is there any public participation? You show any, Amy?
Anyone?
Okay. All right, we'll just turn it over. Chief, you can get started.
Okay, you guys all received the one-page summary that I sent, Dennis?
Yeah, I got it and I sent it out to everybody last night.
Okay, I'm just gonna get on the sheet and if you have any questions, stop me.
Does everybody have the sheet he's talking about?
Yes,
sir.
I have it. Yep, I saw it.
Okay.
So basically, this year's budget request is $360,213. It's an increase of that amount over last year. As in previous years, the vast majority of that increase is in personal services. Roughly $135,000 in salary steps, negotiated pay raises, seniority steps, that kind of thing. There is a slight increase in the budget for the clerical. We have one administrative assistant, and that's strictly due to contractual obligations that our union negotiated.
When you say change in staff, Chief, is that a new person? We have a retirement or?
No, it's Ann Boudry retired a couple of years ago, and she's just a new person. Not brand new, but the second year.
Okay.
There's an increase in overtime, which is again an annual item. For a variety of reasons, we have not been able to stay within our projected overtime budget. This year we had a very significant number of injured on duty personnel, something in the order of 9 or 10. I might even be underestimating that a little bit, but there's at least 10. And a lot of them were long-term injuries, rotor cuff injuries. So we had 3 of those, 2 PTSD, and the rest of them were a variety of either back or joint injuries that just take a while to heal. And we had the recent increase in personnel. We went from 51 to 55 since that last SAFER grant was incorporated. Miscellaneous overtime, which is just overtime that's not related to maintaining shift level. Storms, brush fires, engines sent out of town, that kind of stuff, 4th of July, that's level funded. The next 3, holiday pay, educational, incentive, and EMT stipends, are directly related to contractual obligations that the department picked up in its latest collective bargaining agreement. So that's pretty much a straight mathematical exercise where I'm just literally figuring out the percentages and plugging the figures in. Commercial driver's license, we have 4 department members that receive a commercial driver's license, and that just happens to be the math, what it works up to. It's usually a very minimal increase from one year to the next. I believe they get 1% of top firefighters pay for that. And that benefit has not been increased since it's been instituted. Substitution, which is compensation for acting out of grade, acting captain, acting lieutenant, acting deputy, provisional fire chief. That's where that money comes from. It's level funded. We did have a lot of activity last year, primarily due to yours truly. But I'm knocking on wood here. I don't anticipate any problems this year, and we should be able to live with level funding. Designated firefighter is zero funded because it doesn't really exist anymore. We have a lieutenant on each of our engine companies and a ladder company, so we don't really need a designated firefighter anymore, and it's not provided for in the present elective collective bargaining agreement. EMS director and coordinator, that's a straight percentage. The percentages have not changed or increased in the last contract, so the increase is minimal. Special courses, which is the department members taking classes either online or in person, and getting a small stipend for it. That's been level funded. The last contract that was negotiated, they negotiated in a fitness test stipend where all department members, basically except the deputy and myself, voluntarily can participate in a physical fitness course, and depending upon their performance, which is adjusted according to their age and so forth, they get an extra stipend for that. That's budgeted. That was increased by 6,000 because it cost about 51,000 to administer that benefit last year. So I'm literally just going by last year's experience. Are there any questions on that part of it, or I know that's the majority of it, and I kind of blew through it.
No, I don't have any questions on your personal services, no.
So, if I may, not necessarily on the summary itself, but I guess a little bit more in the details of the of some of the items.
Yep.
One thing I first noticed, I think that the budget that we received does not have the actual expenditures for this fiscal year. Part of why I bring that up is because, I think the area that what I've seen over the last few cycles, it's always a bit more challenging for your department, obviously, is overtime, and rightfully so. I saw, the summary that you provided in terms of essentially the demand on the department, given the expansion and the growth in town, all makes 100% sense to me. So the first thing I was looking at is trying to get a sense as to whether the actual request for FY26 is actually sufficient. I know that might sound weird coming from a finance committee member, but from my perspective, if we don't have sufficient, manning in order to meet the demand in town, my thought is at what point are we going to sort of shift away from having huge expenditures of overtime towards probably adding more FTEs? Now, that thought entered my mind before you told me that it went from 51 to 55. So I want to put that out there. But part of what I was thinking was okay, so how much have we spent overtime this year? And because it looks like FY, at least, what was it, 24, it was like $770,000. So, I was wondering whether that was a blip, or do you anticipate, based on both the demand in town and, the fact that there, various injuries can happen where firefighters will need to be out, which makes 100% sense, whether even having $680,000 is sufficient?
Okay. Well, let me take that in steps.
Yep.
First of all, I apologize for not having the year-to-date figures. Actually, Kevin was supposed to give those to me, and I was supposed to remind him, and he forgot, and so did I.
It's fine. So, thank you, though.
But usually you're right. Usually we have that column is filled, and it's pretty easy to see if we're on course, so to speak, in terms of different items. I would say, due to the fact that we had the numerous injuries that I had referenced earlier, that we're probably somewhere in the vicinity of, or we're going to be in the vicinity of about 800,000 in terms of what we're spending on overtime. We're not there yet, but if a lot of the department members are just coming back now after being out for a long-term injury.
Yep.
So I'm hoping to keep within about that amount of money. And again, that's primarily due to the number of long-term injuries that we have out. I do a 5-year overtime analysis. It's on, I think it's page 4 of the department budget, the department explanation. And that came out to 715,379, which is still higher than what I'm asking for. I apologize for not having it right in front of me, but I think it's 680,000 that I asked for.
Yes, that's true.
So possibly that could possibly be over optimistic, but I like to think that we're getting closer and closer to the mark with what we're actually expending. And this year, I mean, obviously this year is a tough year with the injuries, but I think we're getting closer to the mark.
Okay.
And that's evident every year because the 5-year average is getting closer to what we're actually asking for overtime.
Chief, do you think you can get Kevin to fill in that column for us before we meet?
Yeah, I will. Yep, I will certainly ask him. One of the first things I'm going to do is shoot him an email when I get done here. Because I would actually like to know myself where we stand. I mean, I have an idea on most of the non-personnel accounts, but yeah, it'd be good for you and everybody to have that right in the spreadsheet.
Yeah, and I think it's fine to supplement later. I just know that that's the category that's usually the center of focus from your department, given the demand. You know, it's again, I think it is what it is, and we obviously need to provide those services for the town. So that was my thought. I just was like looking at the trend line. I said, I got a feeling it's going to be higher. And you just, you know, you're basing your estimate. Again, I recognize that obviously this is during a meeting and you're on the spot, but you know, it sounds consistent with what the summary that I read that you had written about sort of the demand on town, how things are increasing, how there might be a need for an additional fire station, more fire apparatus in town. So based on the manning, I thought, yeah, we're probably going to be well above this, which is, it is what it is. But from my perspective, I'm thinking that, you know, more long term, you know, at what point does it make sense to sort of do some of the things that you've outlined in order to decrease the impact of overtime? Because obviously overtime is supposed to be, you know, sort of more on an ad hoc basis, but I think the higher the expenditures go, and then particularly if it's approaching $1 million at some point in the future, it's like, you know, should we do something else that might be a bit more economical? Yes, we're going to spend more money up front for more FTEs, but, you know, we might have a lower impact from the overtime budget and so the other costs. But it's more, at least that piece is more rhetorical, but I just wanted to note that I noticed that and wanted to, you know, get your perspective. So thank you, Chief.
Yep. Yeah, just, you know, the overtime that I request in the budget is based on the assumption that I have 4 groups of 13 firefighters with an 11-person minimum.
Yep.
Which I've never achieved in 16 years as being chief because for various reasons, injuries, military leave. There's just 5 or 6 different categories of items that take people off the payroll or off the roster for a group.
Yep.
The worst thing that happened is with the new contract, well, it's 2 times contract now, is when they went up on the minimum manning from 10 to 11, that really affects the whole 9 yards. Giving us more people, but up in the minimum manning doesn't help anything.
Well, you're right. Yeah. If we had stayed at, well, let me just say this first. If we had stayed at 10 and increased the department by 4, you're right. It would have helped the overtime situation. That's not what happened for a variety of reasons. And let me go on record as saying that going up to 11 was actually a very safe move for the town and the department. Having 3 people on each piece of apparatus, even though it costs more money, is infinitely safer than the way we were doing it before, which is running as low as 2 in the ladder truck. Our run count is definitely going up. We had 4,726 calls, which is roughly 9.3% more calls than we had last year. I would anticipate, based on the construction that is both taking place right now and about to take place, that our run count's gonna go at least to 5,000, if not higher than that, this year. And if we keep getting increases for service close to 10% annually, yeah, then we're gonna be looking at we're gonna have to do something that's gonna cost a lot of money. Whether that's just opening or operating a second engine company out of headquarters, which would be the cheaper option, or building and staffing a fire station, which is obviously more money. Something's gonna have to give sooner or later. But you're right, increasing the staffing from 10 to 11 did definitely impact overtime. But I think given the trade-off in safety for the troops and the public, I'm comfortable with that.
But the trade-off was not there. If you had the minimum manning at 11 and you still had the crew size of 13, you would always, except in dire need of major sickness, you wouldn't be in the position you are for forced overtime. You still would be saving money.
Yeah, well, again, if we could keep the 4 groups of 13, that would be, that's the trick, is keeping the 4 groups at 13 and not having a lot of long-term injuries. You're right, that would give us a cushion of 2 per each group, and that's significant. But we just haven't been able to accomplish that. I think at the worst point, we had 2 groups with 10 department members and 2 groups with 11. And that's just not a situation that's going to save a lot of overtime.
Yeah, Chief, I remember, when we talked about, my squawk at the time was the minimum manning in the contract. You were supportive, like you just said, of it from an operational public safety perspective too.
Yeah.
And so my understanding is, even if you stayed at 10, if the current contract was still at 10, it would be your preference to call somebody in once you got to 10. You would call somebody in anyway if it were up to you, right? From a safety perspective.
Yeah, well, I have to abide by the contract, which
Right, but that's minimum staffing, right? So at your discretion, you can call somebody else in, right?
yes.
Okay. I'm not trying to have that argument again. I'm just saying,
No, that's okay.
but your position has been consistent in that you think from a public safety perspective, 11's as low as you want to go.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure. And you have been consistent on that. But I do, not just to give Dennis his due here, like, I would much prefer to instead of, you can still have 11 guys on staff and not increase the minimum manning clause in the contract. So, next time when we have to go up to 12, you're going to hear me probably saying the same thing, like, just don't put it in the contract. You can do it. You can call somebody in, but don't tie your hands in the contract if something changes. In a number of ways it could change, right? But I don't want to beat a dead horse there. But just to your point, Dennis, I recall this discussion earlier, and a few years ago, and the chief, I hear you, because you've been saying that for years now in terms of the actual operational public safety need for 11.
Yeah, there's not much I can do about that. I mean, once the contract's negotiated, I have to abide by it. I agree with it as well,
Right.
But I think the town, I think the deputy and I do, the union does, and even the town administrator is on it. We're all on the same page that we
Yep.
need to go to 11.
Yep.
So I'm not offended by the question. That's fine. I just, but yeah, it definitely made an impact on overtime. Anything, you want me to keep
Another
going?
question on personnel. I ask every year, any anticipation of retirements coming up that aren't plugged into this budget yet? Which would affect overtime?
I'm not, I can't really plug in or anticipate retirements. It's just not something that we typically do. I'm not aware of a planned retirement. Like, what time frame? Like the calendar year? Is that what you're asking me? Or the fiscal year? Or
The fiscal year.
I'm not aware of any. That can change. I had a retirement this year that kind of came out of left field and wasn't expecting. So I can't really, I don't have any mechanism to predict that other than the fact of sheer time on the job, Dennis. You know, I could tell you who could retire, but I can't guarantee, you know, that that's going to happen, or whether it is going to happen or it isn't going to happen. And there's other factors. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. There's other factors going on here. For instance, I guess they resurrected the military buyback program. So I would anticipate that you may see retirements out of that coming. But again, I can't predict how many or when they're going to happen.
Okay, and any news for any more safer grants coming down? And that would only be if you went for new replacements?
Well, by safer, I'm assuming you mean the staffing grant.
Right.
To my knowledge, they're still available. I know they're not tremendously popular with everybody on the how's that for being diplomatic? They're
Well done,
not
Chief.
tremendously popular by all members of the FinCom or even the town council. I think I would hold off on something like that. Like if the town was going, I'll give you an example. If the town decided by some miracle that they were going to build a third fire station, then yeah, I might apply for a safer grant to staff that fire station. That'd be a big one. That'd probably be for 12 department members, but that's an example. We've actually received 3 safer grants. One a number of years ago for 4 firefighters, one about 3 years ago for 1 firefighter, when the deputy's position was created. And the last one was for 4 firefighters, and that was simply, I believe, probably the simplest answer to why we got that one or applied for it was because the federal government was agreeing to pay for 100% of the freight for 3 years. I'm not really comfortable with predicting what the federal government's going to do right now. So I think I will probably maintain the status quo until I had a really good reason to ask for one.
Okay.
Are you, by that question, are you in favor of safer grants? I'm just curious. I'm not putting you on the, I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
I think safer grants is long-term leasing. That's the way I look at it. It stretches out the inevitable of new firefighters coming on duty, you know, but gives us a cushion to build our way into a budget increase. I mean, we know it's there, and you can plan for it better in the long range. You know, not a quick add of 2 or 3 men to the department and 100% impact. So I'm in favor of it that way.
Okay. Oh, that's fair enough. I guess we'll play that one by ear and see what, for all I know, they could eliminate the safer grant program. I'm not really sure. I don't have a really comfortable feeling about the present situation and federal funding right now. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, let's go on to contractual then.
Okay. Yeah, the rest of the budget's pretty straightforward. I was requesting $9,500 more in contractual services. That's related to 3 primary things. One is an increase in the auto repair account. Obviously, vehicle parts is going up, labor is going up to repair the vehicles. Fire trucks, new fire trucks are, I'll say it, ridiculously expensive, and they take a ridiculously long time to be delivered. So I kind of need the money to keep the fleet that we have up and running to the best of our ability. So I don't think that's too much to ask, considering a new pumper is worth, or I don't know if it's worth, but that we have to ask for $1.3 million for a new pumper. If I'm looking for $5 grand for, you know, to try to keep what we have running, I don't think that's unreasonable. The radio repair, it's a $3,000 increase. We have a radio vendor that we took on about a year or two ago. And they actually expressed an interest in doing some preventive maintenance on our portable radios, which would increase their longevity. And so I'm trying to increase that line item to accommodate maybe testing half of our portable radios in the hopes that we'll keep them all online, or at least as many online as we can, and stave off having to replace the entire portable radio fleet, which is probably going to come sometime in the next few years. The last one is an increase in a non-classified account. We have a vendor called CrewSense. That's it's basically our scheduling program, scheduling and help me out here, Deb, overtime and details and stuff like that. Am I close?
Yeah, it's all the scheduling software.
Okay.
Scheduling, day-to-day operations, training, everything else.
So the money comes out of that account, and like most other vendors, their price for service is going up, and I'm trying to keep up with it. And that would comprise the $9,500 in contractual. Materials and supplies, I'm looking for $4,000. $3,000 of that is for motor vehicle parts for pretty much the same reason that I asked for a increase in the labor for auto repair. There's a $1,000 increase in medical expenses. A few years ago, I got a little overzealous and I cut that account from $9,000 to $6,000. And I realized that just the maintenance of the defibrillators for the department is about $6,500. So I'm trying to get that back so I can live within my means, so to speak, and medical expenses. And the last one was sundry, which is level funded.
We still getting money for donations from Cataldo for the Narcan and stuff?
Yeah, there are a number of funding programs out there. Actually, the hospital is where we usually get our Narcan supplies and stuff like that. Those expenses dropped way down during COVID because the federal government was giving us money left and right to buy pretty much whatever we needed to combat COVID. COVID's gone, and so is the money. So.
Yeah.
And yeah, the last one. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anybody have any questions? Okay.
You know, I like to think we try to have as transparent a budget as we can. Hopefully you guys feel the same way.
Yeah, your summary was actually very helpful. It actually got rid of a lot of questions that I would have had because you explained it and broke everything down. So very helpful.
Yeah, every year, Chief, it's the most thorough budget package I get, in my opinion. So
yeah, it's very thorough.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions? Did I leave something out or?
Well, I have one question in seeing the police budget on television. The police budget has a certain amount of money in it for the 911 referral over to Cataldo if they have a medical problem or a let's call it non-police problem. Okay, why can't the fire department take that call instead of going to Cataldo?
Yeah, I believe what you're referring to is like a medical dispatch. It's like a certification level that you have to hold. So what Chief Scory is doing is he's deferring. You're allowed to defer that to another department, and the dispatchers at Cataldo are trained to that particular level. Yes, we're all EMTs, or almost all of us are EMTs, and we're trained to that level, but you have to be, in terms of the dispatch function, you have to be trained specifically in medical dispatch to take that responsibility on. So what Chief Scory actually did was he saved the town some money by forcing is a bad word, but coercing or asking Cataldo to take that over. You know, so that's not a bad thing. And I don't believe there's any charge related to that, Dennis, if that makes you feel any better.
Well, it's a $10,000 or $14,000 item. I thought, Amy, I thought that's what it was.
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't aware that they were paying Cataldo for that. I don't know. To be
Well, I
honest.
don't know if it's for the phone line or whatever, the transfer. But
Yeah.
there's about a $10,000 or $14,000 in their budget for that item for Cataldo.
Yeah, you'd have to ask Chief Scory about exactly what that's for. I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Okay. Amy, do you know what the,
I don't remember if they talked about that or not.
yeah, okay, because I heard the number and the first I heard that they were moving at 911 to Cataldo. I thought we did it in-house. Okay, so it's nothing that you people could take over and eliminate 14,000 out of the police budget. That's all I'm saying.
I'm going to answer that question as honestly as I can, Dennis.
Yeah,
It will require a certification. If it's going to require a certification in medical dispatch, they're gonna want something for that. And the savings is not gonna, there's not gonna be any savings there. Whether we, you know, if we did it, I'm not guaranteeing you that there would be any savings. In other words, that would end up being negotiated into the contract, and I would be astounded if that didn't cost more money.
yeah. Okay, all right, that's the only crossover that I've heard between departments that I want to get clarification on.
Yep.
Okay. As far as your contractual services, can you go into that stuff?
Yeah, what, do you have specific questions about one of them?
Well, how dire is this new engine in your list?
Well, I have.
What is the age of your fleet? Let's put it
Yeah,
that way.
That's a fair question. Yep. I have 4 pumpers, right? A 2000, a 2006, a 2017, and a 2021. The 2017 and the 2021 are frontline. They run all the time. The other 2 we use when a piece breaks down. It isn't kind of like the old days where the fire trucks were more mechanical, I guess is a good word for it. Everything in these new fire trucks is computerized, electronic, very complicated, and very easy to break down. All it takes is a module to get down, and you got an alarm going off in the dashboard telling you to shut the engine off or surface engine, you know, imminently or whatever, or however you want to phrase it. They just don't act like the pumps did, you know, 15 or 20 years ago. So it's very important for me to have 2 spares that are reliable and they're also fully equipped. They're fully equipped, fully loaded. They have water in them. So like literally if one of my primary engines goes down, we can jump into a reserve piece and other than moving your gear over, take off. Which I think has saved us on a number of occasions. You know, we work very hard to maintain our equipment. But having said that, we used to be able to get 20 years out of a pumper, and you could count on a pumper being frontline service for maybe 15 years, and maybe get at least another 5, possibly 10 more years out of it as a backup reserve pumper. That's kind of changing, and it's more like 10 years as a frontline pumper now, and 5 to 10 as a reserve. If you go by that time scale, the 2000s had it, and I mean, that's just, you know, luck at this point. And the 2006 is getting to the point where, you know, the chances of it staying in service as much as we would like it to be are going to fade.
Why
The
is
ladder
that, chief?
trucks-
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, why do you think that is? Is that run volume, call volume? Or is it a function of the product? It's just not what it used to be, or?
Well, I think it's more like a lot of things are different than they were 20 years ago. There's a lot more environmental requirements, and I'm not knocking environmental requirements, but the new trucks are very sensitive, and it just doesn't take much to knock one of them out of service. You know, usually it usually is a module or a sensor or something that just needs to get replaced. We didn't have that problem with the older fire trucks.
Mm.
The 2000 and 2006 don't have as many of those things in them, so they don't break down as often. They're just wearing out. I don't know if does that make sense?
Yeah, it sure does. That's interesting. I was just curious. That's interesting. A
So
lot
we're
of
kind of a
they're like all
victim
computers
of,
now. They're mobile computers. Everything is cars, everything.
yeah, we're kind of a victim of our own advanced society.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I have major problems, and again, I'm not being anti-environmental, but I have major problems with the exhaust system requirements. It's a fire truck. You know, we're not running an 18-wheeler 24/7 out on the road. You know, I kind of think that they should cut us a little bit of slack with some of the stuff, but that's just not the way it is.
Chief, do we have the ability, if an engine goes down for a major point in time, we still have the ability to borrow an engine out of Boston or whatever? As we,
Well, the short answer is, yeah, we could probably get something from somebody for a short period of time. But the question is, what are you getting? Okay, you know, you're going to get typically a piece of fire apparatus that's 25 years old. And because that's what they have, that's what they're running for reserves. Ladder trucks are extremely hard to get spares for. They're not as available as they were 15 or 20 years ago. And then if something breaks on them and you're running it, you kind of own it. You own the problem, you know. So, and they're, you know, that's basically it. That's the answer.
okay. All right, thank you.
Can I ask one more question, going back to the environmental side? And you might have said this and I missed it. If a truck isn't up to code basically on the environmental side, are you still able to use it? Can it be used as a backup, or how does that work?
Well, it depends on the age of the apparatus. Like the older pumps they're not required to have the modern emissions filters and all that stuff that the new ones are. So it really doesn't affect you until a pump is taken out of service or disposed of, and you go to replace it with a new one. And then
Okay,
the new
and then
one,
you have to meet the,
yeah.
okay.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions?
Those are very good questions, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Chief, as far as the fire prevention goes, I think you're closer to that than the chief is. I'm not putting you down, Chief, by saying that.
No, that's fine.
How are we working out for our inspections on all the new stuff coming on board? How do we handle that?
Well, Captain Shinny is the fire prevention captain, and that's his division, but the chief and I are involved, but it's extremely busy, busier than it has ever been, and the chief served many, many years in there. I did a 4-year stint, but it's constant. The building is constant. I think you all just look around town and you can quite clearly see what we have going on. And top of $200-300 million high schools. And our fire prevention captain will be leaving in April. So we'll be onboarding and promoting a captain to train. So we'll all be doing double duty. It's extremely, extremely, extremely busy. We like to say we need firefighters on the apparatus, and we finally got to the staffing, you know, through the chief and the town administrator that we need to be when we talk about overtime. But You talk about one more in admin, we would welcome that. And I'm just telling you how it is. It's extremely busy. We don't even see Captain Shinny. He goes, he goes, he goes. The infrastructure is just crazy. Never mind re-inspections and things of that nature. We can't even keep up with just the basic stuff. We have control of it, but it's very, very important. We work very tightly with the building inspector, the building inspectional services. But you can't miss anything, you know, new construction, meetings, engineers. I mean, you understand that, Dennis.
Well,
That's the short answer.
Well, I'm concerned with that, whether we're staying up with it, because I see the town so busy with building that you're the first line that's gonna come out and say, we got a problem. And, I mean, you see it before, it's a police problem because you get the long-term health of the building in mind, not a reactionary problem at the police department. So I'm concerned with that, and how is our force of firefighters that used to go around with an engine during the day and walk into these facilities so that they get an in-house feeling of every building in case they do have to go in there in an emergency.
We still do that. To answer your question, we do. Well, I used to say 600 in-service inspections. It's a lot higher now.
Yeah. Well,
The
that's
companies
part
do go out. Yeah, the companies go out, and we have to intermingle that with our regular training and our EMS training. So you talk about that software, the crew sense software, the scheduling software. You know, the guys and gals, it's a juggling process for scheduling, and they still go into a lot of the businesses, and we're toying with the idea now of some of the frequencies of those businesses doing every other year. Yeah, we're trying to adjust again. Do what you can within municipal government. It's a challenge. I would be lying to you if I said that we had enough people and that we had a great handle on it. We do a great job here, but we are strapped and we are running, no question.
Well, one thing that comes to mind that it's not a big item and it probably could be handled more with the planning board on up as a requirement, that a video tape of the building should be made on all new buildings so that at least when your time in-house, you can run that as that building and say, this is what this building looks like. So you get a feel for the
Yeah.
building.
So we're in the process right now of onboarding a new piece of software that most of the neighboring communities utilize, First Do software. It's got several different modules, and one of them is the fire prevention, pre-fire planning, which we do now. We have everything on a computer. But that right now I can bring up GPS coordinates, so let's just say the junior high school, and it will show you the building, everything around it. We can attach videos to the interior, panel locations, everything. Yeah, oh yeah, we have the capabilities. It's having the people to input that stuff. Planning board would be great. We do a lot of it. To get the information that you need on every single building, sprinkler systems, locations, fire alarm panels, master box, keys. It's ongoing. We do a lot of it now, and it's just getting better. But we are moving to the newer technology. We could use some help, but those divisions are up against it too. Planning, inspectional services. But
Well, I'm just
now.
saying that if it's a requirement through the planning board in the permitting stage that they have to supply it, then it can help, if it's not there. I'm
Right,
just
it
saying
could.
it should be advocated on your end to the town manager to say, hey, this is what we'd like to have as an item. And
Yeah, for instance, we do that with the Mr. DeCristoforo, Ben, over on building. The new thing now, and it's not really clear in the energy code of the electrical vehicles. The electric vehicles,
right.
they sprout up everywhere, these charging stations and all this stuff. So we work with MLD and with inspectional services, so they have to report where they're going to be, things of that nature. Let's get pictures of them. There's a recent gas station near the Dolby School that just went up. I visited it, and I'm like, where did these charging stations come from? I didn't know they were here. So we have to be very involved in a lot of different things, and that's just something new. The new parking garage at the head of the lake, it's going to be 5 stories with over 34 spots. Do we have saying where those vehicles are going to be parked? Exterior of the building is wood frame construction. There's a lot that goes on, and we all need to work together better because the codes change yearly.
The building code is allows for like third parties to come in and do like plan review and stuff like that. That's been very helpful to us on some of these big projects, where somebody can at least have taken a preliminary look at it, applied it to the code, and looked for deficiencies, so forth. It's nice to have that, and that's something that we've been, both the fire department and the building department, have been able to benefit from, because Ben is just as overwhelmed with the new construction as we are. And we're heading in the right direction, but we're not there yet. We're going to need more help. The added construction, people want to know why our run count's going up. It's going up because most of the added construction is residential, and most of what we do is medically related. So we have more people getting sick, having heart attacks. These buildings have alarm systems in them, so alarm malfunctions, accidental alarms, odors of gas in the building. All of one development alone isn't going to make much difference, but you start piling on 6, 7, 8 developments of good, sizable developments, and it's gonna make an impact on the department.
That was a huge difference for us, having inspectional services require a third-party review of plans. I mean, it's enormous. It really, really helps in the fire prevention division, because we're not hydraulic engineers either. We reviewing sprinkler systems. It's a lot of work, as the chief said. It really helped out. One number I'll throw out there is simultaneous runs, or runs that overlap each other. We're at 31.6%. If you can fathom that. I mean, you want to talk about busy, okay? So it's not so much the number of runs. Those incrementally go up every year, but simultaneous and overlapping responses to emergencies at 31.6%. Means we're spread out, we're out together.
That's over last year too.
It's an increase?
We were 29% and change last year, and it keeps going up.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's it's tough. With EMS, and we're just sending people in different directions. We have to clear scenes quicker. You call for a mutual aid company to respond to a medical, they're 8-10 minutes out. That can make all the difference in the world. So that's a number to be, it's just going to keep going up.
Good.
Chief, were you, before the planning board started requiring peer reviews, were you the only ones reviewing the applicants from like a compliance perspective? Were they just relying on you to tell them what they needed?
Well, it's always been a combination of fire and building.
Well, sure. Yeah. But they were just asking the town. The town was doing sort of all the quote unquote engineering review.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I did not know that. Yeah, they should be paying a third party. I mean, within reason, obviously, but because they're expensive, I get it. But it's it's their building. It's you guys should be their engineers.
The deputy's definitely correct in pointing out that it's been very helpful.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And those people they work very closely with us. They know what they're doing. We're able to bounce stuff off of them. They're able to bounce stuff off of us, and it's good.
Spreads out the liability a bit too. Like they're the ones with the engineers putting their stamps on it.
Yep.
Not to go there, but that's important too.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else? All set?
I think so. I am. Yeah.
Okay, guys, do appreciate it. And see you all, Finance Committee, but 2 more days.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for your support. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks for hosting, Amy.
Oh, not a problem.
Thank you.
Bye.
We'll see you guys. Bye.